We got an all football Friday here on Trending in the AM. That is all we're going to talk about. Football, not the Phillies' 5-game winning streak, not more Sixers and, off-season ideas and rumors. Tired of all that. Today, and as always, it's all football Friday. I got an interesting topic to lead the jump off here with, and that's a Jalen Hurts conversation that I really want to get into and I want to dive into with you. So Trending in the AM, right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. It starts in 30 seconds. And a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM, right here on Philadelphia Sports Network. We're live, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You know the drill. Like, share, retweet, follow on all social media platforms. But make sure you smash that like button and get interactive on the YouTube page and Facebook page. That is where you could put your ideas, thoughts, comments, concerns, because here at Trending in the AM, your opinion actually matters. And it's Friday. It's all football Friday. No Sixers, no Phillies, nothing. And that means we are talking Eagles today. And I think this is the interesting topic. We got lots. We're going to talk about the Eagles OTAs, other NFL news and notes. But I want to talk about, it's something I've been thinking about for a while now. What does 2023 look like for Jalen Hurts? What equates a successful individual season, not for the team, individual season for Jalen Hurts in 2023? We're going to get into it. Good morning to everybody that's tuning in. Happy Friday. Yes, go Phillies. Phillies are on a 5-game winning streak. But this is all football Friday. We spend all week talking Phillies and Sixers and other stuff. Hell, we talked golf and Flyers this week on the show. No wonder the ratings are through the tank this week. We're talking everything but Eagles this week. I can't wait till Eagles season is here every day. And we're talking Eagles every day on this show. Luckily, my microphone and soundboard's back working. Yesterday, if you tuned in, I don't know what the hell happened. But as soon as I hit go live, everything just crapped the bucket. Go and plug it back in last night. Working perfectly fine. Don't know what happened. So if my mic goes again today in the middle of the show, I don't know what's going on. But I sound better with the mic. I still sound nasally. Still fighting a cold. Still fighting the awful weather in the Philadelphia region with the smog and the smoke. It's getting better, but, still another day or so till we're fully through all of that. But anyway, welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Phil Stiefel, your host. And let's just get right to it. We got a special extended edition. We've gone live at 8:10 instead of 8:30. So I'm going to get plenty of time to talk. And as everybody starts rolling into the chat, your opinions, your questions, your thoughts, we'll bring them up. And I think we start right with Jalen Hurts. Obviously, OTAs ended yesterday. We won't see the team back together until July for training camp. Jalen wants to win a Super Bowl. That is what his – dude, Dan, Don. Does that say Don? I can't read my own screen. Don, sorry, not Dan. Don. That is a perfect statement to lead it off. He does just want to win a Super Bowl. And everything we're hearing him say, like, it wasn't just a young kid saying things like, he has not changed. Like, he says the right things all the time. And he backs it up on the practice field, in the workouts, on the field during the games. Like, he literally says the right thing all the time. But let's realistically see and say the jump he took from 2021 to 2022. I mean, it was a massive jump. And I've been racking my brain for weeks, months now, since the season ended, unfortunately at the Super Bowl. Since then, I've been trying to find a comparison in sports, period. Not just football, not just with quarterbacks in football, in sports, period, where an athlete took the jump from 2021 to 2022 like Jalen Hurts did, where Jalen Hurts going into 2022 wasn't even the definite he is our quarterback of the future. Hell, we saw it in the past week or so, the trade details of what Howie Roseman was offering for Russell Wilson. Can you imagine the things we wouldn't have on this team right now if the trade for Russell Wilson went through? And again, it is coming up that Russell Wilson didn't want to play here. That's something that, is intriguing to me because now everybody wants to play here. Dalvin Cook to the Cowboys. What do you think the possibility is? I hope not. Well, to answer your question, AJ, and Dalvin Cook's on my list of things to discuss throughout the day. We'll dive right into it right now for you. I think it seems pretty clear that, the Dolphins seem to be the top contender for Dalvin Cook. He tweeted a picture out or Instagrammed the picture out or however you say it, of him at their stadium. A lot of rumors point towards the Dolphins for Dalvin Cook. I think the Cowboys are in the game for Dalvin Cook. Obviously, they haven't brought Zeke back. Tony Pollard's been injured before. I think he could go there. I'm just glad, AJ, that no Eagles fans are pounding the table for Dalvin Cook to the Eagles because we really don't need Dalvin Cook at this point. I misread the headline today. Thought it said, "Can Jalen Hurts read?" What does my head? Can Jalen Hurts actually get even better? Yeah, you definitely you definitely messed up that headline there, Cole. The question isn't can he get better, and exactly, George. I think you're on something. Like my thought process is, and I've got his stats from last year up here on my screen. 3,700 passing yards. He was about 500 more passing yards, about 5% better in his completion percentage, less interceptions, more touchdowns. Obviously had the 700 plus rushing yards. Is individually speaking, because there are still a few that aren't sold on Jalen Hurts. He's the guy. He's the guy going forward. We know that. But what if he pumps out the exact same stats and maybe we lose in the championship game? Are people going to say Jalen Hurts is a bust? He's a failure. He's not as good. That 2022 was an aberration? Like, to me, him maintaining the status quo on the stats, which I'll get into what I think his stats will be approximately this year in a minute. If he just maintains the status quo, to me, that's a success because we've never seen that kind of a jump in a quarterback before. And I think it's really important for people to realize that him maintaining the status quo could be considered a successful season, individually speaking. Dalvin Cook is better than Swift, but I have no issue with going with Swift over. It's a money thing, Cole, too. I mean, we still got about $10, $12 million in cap space. Obviously the Budda Baker situation will be out there. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll get into some of the things from the OTAs in a minute. But look, Dalvin Cook is obviously better than Swift and Penny combined. And I've said it before that I don't even believe that there's a 100% guarantee that Rashad Penny makes this roster in 2023. If something happens, if somebody blows him away in camp, if somebody became available cheaply like Dalvin Cook, and you wanted to add him, his contract, Rashad Penny, was only like $600,000 guaranteed. So you can get off of him pretty quickly and easily. But do you really want the big Dalvin Cook? Is he even somebody that would fit this system? And that's what you got to think about. I mean, we went out how many years ago and got Murray from the Cowboys, DeMarco Murray from the Cowboys, and fit him into Chip Kelly, which how Chip Kelly got brought into a Sixers conversation yesterday, I have no idea, but he did. But you take Murray and you put him into a system with Chip Kelly that he's not a fit. He still had good stats, so to say, but it wasn't a fit. Is Dalvin Cook even a fit? We don't run I formations, kind of runs. So I don't think it's possible. If they aren't sold, they are just in denial. Absolutely agree. If you're not sold on Jalen Hurts at this point, you're in denial. I agree with you. But I still want to say, what is the next step for Jalen Hurts? And I got some interesting thoughts on it too. Gainwell will have a big year, and that's a huge part why the Dalvin Cook thing isn't going to probably happen. AJ, I like DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny. I think they're your 1-2. I don't have the faith in Kenneth Gainwell that the Eagles organization does. I don't know if Kenneth Gainwell is a lead running back. He's part of a trio. I think he can have success as a trio, but as a lead guy, I don't know if he's got it in him. But he also seems to fit this system and what the Eagles want to do really well. And that's why you don't go out and get a Dalvin Cook. I know there's rumors early in the offseason. Eagles fans wanted Austin Eckler because he might have been available. Derrick Henry was available. Like, Gainwell is not that kind of a running back. He's a different kind. And I have no issue with the three-headed monster. I said, how do you replace Miles Sanders, 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns? It doesn't just easily happen. And you're banking on a Gainwell, Penny, and Swift backfield to do that. And you have to. You think the Eagles might take a shot at DeAndre Hopkins? It depends. I'm surprised Hopkins hasn't been picked up yet, which to me concerns me a little bit, but also might work in the Eagles' favor. I think the Eagles are saving a majority of their salary cap, Adam, that they have left to go get Budda Baker or improve the safety position as a whole. So DeAndre Hopkins still out there tells me he's looking for a big money contract still. And if he doesn't get it, then a month from now, 2 months from now, as we're into training camp, if he's still out there, then that kind of gives you a little leverage. Hey, just come for 1 year. Come play with Jalen. Help us win a Super Bowl. You don't have a Super Bowl. So that helps us. But him still being available now a couple weeks after he was released tells me he does want the big contract still. So same stats means he is the guy. And Jalen Hurts, I mean, to me, like, what's the possibility that Jalen Hurts still just throws? I think he throws for more yards. But I also think he rushes for less. I am almost over this cold, guys. Almost. The smoke air did not help me get over it at all this week. I actually think a season for Jalen Hurts this year, he had, let me pull up his stats here again. Give me 1 second. 700 and this is where I think his numbers changed this year. He rushed 165 times for 760 yards last year. He had the 13 touchdowns. I think his rushing numbers come down a little bit this year. I think they do what they can to sort of, so to say, protect him. You're not going to take his running aspect out of it, but I think they're going to try to get him less designed runs. I think he is going to run the ball less this year, which then in turn helps Swift, Penny, whoever in the backfield get more yards, but it also helps your wide receivers, your tight ends. You know, the passing yard numbers may go up a little bit. So, I could see Jalen Hurts somewhere below 500 rushing yards this year. When I do my bold prediction show with, on Edge of Philly, when they do their stat prediction show that I was on last year, where I almost nailed the 18.5 sacks for Hassan Reddick. Everyone's like, what? I'm like, yeah, that's going to happen. I'm ready. I think I haven't figured out the exact number to make my bold prediction under 400 yards for Jalen Hurts rushing. I think he can throw for 4,000 yards. Is 4,000 yards. So he had 3,600 yards passing and 700. So he had like 4,300 all total yards. If he does 4,000 passing yards and 400 rushing yards, that does the same thing for me. I'm not in denial. I need to see a second season. I'm 80% there. Hey, I get it, George. And I understand. Because even me, who I am the staunchest Jalen Hurts supporter. I've been behind him since the day he was drafted. And I love the guy. But that jump from 2021 to 2022, it was unheard of. Nobody in the history of sports that I can remember took that big of a leap from a guy that was the 15th, 16th, 17th best quarterback in football that, had moments of greatness and moments of struggles where a franchise was not sold on to becoming almost the MVP. Arguably should have been the MVP. The best player on the field in the Super Bowl. Nobody takes that leap. So you got to expect that there is a chance, especially with the harder schedule, that there might be a little regression in 2023. And even say he goes out there and only throws for 3,700 yards. His interceptions go from 6 up to 9. As long as we win games effectively, as long as we make another playoff run, a smidge of regression is almost, in my opinion, acceptable for Jalen Hurts because nobody takes that kind of a leap. I'm still so stuck on that. People need to stop looking at household names and read between the lines. Why are the Vikings walking away from a player that has not dropped in production? I agree. As soon as I saw the Dalvin Cook news, we knew the Dalvin Cook news was probably happening if he got traded or he was going to get released. We knew he was out there. And I'm not sure exactly what the Vikings were thinking there because he still was effective for the Vikings. And the Vikings, they're one of those teams, Kirk Cousins, you got the great Justin Jefferson there, that I think Kirk Cousins is better than people give him credit for. But I think his stats are slightly padded by two reasons, because he's got the best wide receiver in football, Justin Jefferson, where he can just fling it up there and Justin Jefferson will always come down with it. But also because he had an elite running back that took some of the pressure. They had to stack the boxes against Dalvin Cook always. So the play action works really well. Like I think Kirk Cousins sees a slight regression this year, and the Vikings might take a step back this year because Dalvin Cook's not there. And Madison, I know they drafted a young guy and they got Madison. Is that really the answer? I don't know. But I'm not going all in if I'm a franchise on Dalvin Cook. If Dalvin Cook wants to come to my city on a 1-year cheap deal, he's getting up there in age, Dalvin Cook. He's no spring chicken anymore. Got lots of wear and tear on those tires. Like, I just don't – you don't just cut a guy like Dalvin Cook unless there's a reason. And it could just simply be that they just want to move into a younger direction. But, I don't know. It really – but it really – like, the first thing I saw when I saw he got released, I went right away to Twitter. I'm like, yo, Eagles fans, I don't want to hear let's bring in Dalvin Cook. Because it's not you've got I think it's $12 million in cap space right now. It's just not a smart use of it. Like, Dalvin Cook will still get decent money. If Miles Sanders got whatever it was, 3 years, $20 million, or he got $7 or $8 million a year, Miles Sanders, Dalvin Cook is still going to get $10 million. He might not get a long-term deal. He might not get a $60 million contract, but someone's going to give Dalvin Cook a 2-year, 20, 3-year, 28, something like that, $1 million contract with a bunch of it guaranteed. Someone's going to do it, whether it's the Dolphins, which seem to be the likely direction. If the Dolphins don't lock him up immediately, maybe, as somebody said up here before, that AJ said it to the Cowboys, maybe if he doesn't get locked up immediately, Jerry Jones swoops in and does what he does and overpays for a running back. Maybe he does. There's just no reason for the Eagles to even get involved in that. And I think there's so much better usage of that $12 million, whether it's Budda Baker, whether you use a couple million of that to go get Hopkins. We still, in my opinion, need a better tight end too. I don't know about you guys, but Dallas Goedert is great. He is one of the best when he's healthy and on the field tight ends in football. But he's not on the field a lot. You got Dan Arnold. You got Jack Stahl. You got Grant Calcaterra. And I know Grant Calcaterra reports from camp or from OTAs. He bulked up a little bit and he looked good. Jack Stahl, he's a great blocking tight end. He's calm and consistent. He doesn't do anything flashy. Dan Arnold does not excite me. I still would like them to upgrade that tight end 2 position a little bit, or the tight end 3, whatever. If you want to make crank out who they're high on, Grant Calcaterra, you want to make him part of the rotation, that's fine. But, the Cardinals are blowing things up in Arizona, which makes no sense to me because you still got Kyler Murray next year. But does a reunion with Zach Ertz interest anybody? As long as he understands he's behind Dallas Goedert in the rankings. You got to think Dallas Goedert's missed 12 games over the last 3 years. Twice he's missed 5 games in the last 3 years. You need somebody that can step up. And when Dallas Goedert was out last year, our offense had to change a little bit. It sputtered a little bit. Now, he might not miss 5 games this year, but we got to assume that Dallas Goedert, because of the track record, it's not a 1-year track record. It's a 3-year track record. I'm missing time. You got to think that Dallas Goedert's going to miss 2, 3, 4 games this year. And if he does, wouldn't it be nice to have a Zach Ertz that could just step up and fill that void of that pass-catching tight end? I don't know. It's something that, I've been thinking about for a couple days, a week now, that, is it the worst-case scenario? You bring that guy back into the fold. He knows the team. He loves this city. He still spends a lot of his time in the offseason here in the Philadelphia area. Give him one more chance at winning another Super Bowl. I would make the call. If they release him, whatever, but if you want to go call and offer a 7th-round pick for him to be your backup tight end, is that an improvement over Stahl and Dan Arnold? Is a Goddard, Arnold, Calcaterra, or Goddard, Ertz, Calcaterra tight end room more intriguing to you? And I know Zach Ertz isn't what he used to be, but we know Jalen Hurts likes tight ends. He likes having a tight end to throw to. It can't hurt. But back to the Jalen Hurts part of it. What does this season look like for him? And, the schedule isn't extremely hard at the beginning of the season. And I firmly believe in momentum in sports. Like, everybody's saying this Eagles schedule is so much more difficult than last year. Last year's schedule turned out to be harder than people realized. And this year's schedule, there are some really good teams on it, but it's very bunched up. You got some really easy games. Like, there's a lot of people predicting 7-0, 8-0, 9-0 to start the season. And then a big stretch of games where they can lose 4 or 5 in a row. And I think both things are wrong. There's no way the Eagles ever, with Jalen Hurts, are going to lose 4 or 5 games in a row. Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni will never let this team lose 4 or 5 games in a row. I don't think I can ever see this incarnation of Jalen Hurts losing more than 2 games in a row. I just don't think he has the mentality to let his team lose 2 games in a row. When you have Jalen Hurts as quarterback, running back is not going to sink the ship. Injury at an aging cornerback position is our Achilles heel. And that's interesting because, they've done some work to improve the cornerback position. But have they done enough? I mean, I know a lot of people are high on Kelly Ringo, the young kid we drafted, or was he an unrestricted free or undrafted free agent, whatever it may be. Safety is still an issue. The defense, I kind of don't look at cornerbacks and safeties separate anymore. I kind of look at the defensive back room as a whole, kind of, sort of. I know it's not exactly the same, but the way safeties play now, the hybrid safeties, kind of look at it all together. And I still think it's possibly our weakest thing. Linebacker might be our weakest spot, but I think that defensive backfield might be. But see, the thing is, the running back is not going to sink the ship. But I really, truly feel also that the Eagles are going to make a concerted effort to not overuse Jalen Hurts in that. He's still going to do the tush push every single opportunity on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. It's going to happen. But there were games last year where he had 12, 14. He had one game last year where he had 18 rushes. You're not going to see that out of Jalen Hurts. What is up, Mitch? What is up, Drew? How you guys doing? Make sure you're hitting that like button. We're talking Eagles, all Eagles today, and we'll talk some other NFL. I do want to, shout out Damar Hamlin. He returned to OTAs for Buffalo. It's a hell of a story. Hell of a story that Damar Hamlin is back. I don't even know how he mentally is handling coming back onto the field after all that. We'll get back to the Eagles in a second. Something made me, I want to talk, there's other things. I want to talk gambling in football and these players that keep getting suspended for it. I want to touch on that later in the show. And I was going to talk about Damar Hamlin later in the show, but for some reason, as people are jumping in, I want to bring this up. Damar Hamlin being back on the practice field. It's great. It's emotional. It's like, I don't consider myself a mentally strong person. Like, I don't. I have my issues. But the fact that he was able to step back on their field and start practicing, like, how is he even prepared to take a hit or give a hit in the NFL? I don't know. Back to some of these comments. Calcaterra will have a bigger role. I'm comfortable with Stoll and Calcaterra. Interesting. Like, Calcaterra came into the league with a lot of hype and all, and he might be the future replacement of Dallas Goedert. I don't know. You think about it, the Eagles have always had a tight end and then the future tight end underneath them. You had Selleck with Ertz underneath him, then Ertz with Goddard underneath him. Now you have Goddard. Is Calcaterra that replacement? I just don't know about Stoll. That's the thing. Please tell our dudes to ditch their cell phones. I mean, that gets to the gambling thing. We'll get back to that in a little bit. But yeah, anybody that gets caught and suspended for gambling, they get what they deserve, honestly. Yeah, I don't do, you know me, George, I don't do schedule predictions. Not until the day before, the week before week 1, I'll make my record prediction. But I'm not doing that. I don't do that because, again, last year proves it. Like, we didn't know we had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson until August 20th. Like, your team's not complete till it's complete. And hell, once the season starts, your team isn't complete, so you never know. I'll make one prediction, and I'll make it the week before the season starts. Don't sleep on Dan Arnold. Really? Really? I don't know. I don't know if I could buy the Dan Arnold is legit thing. I probably go with Stahl over Dan Arnold. I looked a little bit at his numbers and some of his route running once he got signed. He doesn't impress me too much. Secondary is a great unknown. Slay always misses plays. Bradbury is also over 30. Obviously you've got, Blankenship, who was young and inexperienced, but he made some steps. I do have, a report on what went down at OTAs this week. And there is a paragraph on here that Terrell Edmonds had a great batch of OTAs, and he claimed, and the person writing this article, which was it Nick Faria from PSN? Nick Faria, who's been on this show before, says that Terrell Edmonds is going to make people forget C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I don't know. I think Edmonds is a backup. That's why Budda Baker is still such an intriguing name to me, because I still think we need a bump up there. You have Greedy Williams to back up. Avonte Maddox misses time regularly. Like, the secondary, to me, like, I still think the linebacker core is weak, but secondary is more important of a position, especially in today's NFL. So I think it is important that we discuss the need for an improvement there for sure. Is today football? Today is all football. It's all football Friday. Sidney Brown will impress. AJ, there's a lot of people hyping up Sidney Brown, and he may very well be the future in that secondary. But are you ready to go into the season with him in a vital role as a young rookie? I don't know. And that's why a one-year deal with Budda Baker impresses me and intrigues me. You can't have Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown and Terrell Edmonds, and that's it in your safety. You need Kayvon Wallace. Are we really going to go back that well again? So I really think we need improvement there. We need a Dollar General Budda Baker. Well, we've got about $12 million in cap space. So there is a scenario where you can bring Budda Baker here and use a portion of that. So you don't have to get him at the dollar store. You can get him at Ollie's or Big Lots, where things are discounted, but not quite. The Darnold to Arnold connection was great, but Panthers traded him. Great might be a stretch. The word great and Dan Arnold, I don't know about that. That sounds like Coke to me. Edmonds is Jag. Well, I just reading the articles from the guys that write them, the guys that are there at camp and in the reporting room, and what they say. That's what I'm doing. I read the articles, I form my own opinions, but I wait till I see it on the field. I try my best to save any kind of opinions I have till I actually see it. You need to upgrade at linebackers. I don't know what our defense is. We're a 4-2, sort of. We play a lot of nickel. We always got about 5 defensive backs. We have 2 linebackers normally and 4 linemen, but sometimes we play 5 down linemen and 1 linebacker because we've got 2 linebackers, and Nolan Smith and Nakobe Dean. Well, Nolan Smith and Hassan Reddick, who are really edge rushers, but they play the linebacker role, and sometimes they do drop back in coverage. So really, you've got 3 linemen, you got 2 edge rushers that play linebacker roles, and then you got Nakobe Dean, who's got the green dot on his helmet now in camp. So, is that enough? And again, this same article says that in OTAs, that where is it? Here it is. Christian Ellis, is the winner of the Eagles, best player in OTAs this week. Undrafted free agent from the Vikings. He's here. He played on special teams last year. Was once considered a long shot. Now might actually get playing time as a linebacker for this Eagles team. Very good chance. Remember, Blankenship was an unknown, and he was great last year. I think we will be fine with Blankenship, Edmonds, with Brown lurking on the bench. Yeah, I mean, you might be right, AJ. You may be. But there's a lot of, I don't know. I still would prefer an upgrade. And was Blankenship good? Or was Blankenship okay? Are we going to get first and foremost? We talk about Jalen Hurts and what his numbers will look like this year. And will they regress, stay the same, get better? Well, will the defensive line get 70 sacks again this year? I mean, it was almost a record all time. And the question is, if they regress those numbers a little bit, that means they're getting after the quarterback a little bit less, which means then your secondary could be exposed more. If you can only upgrade one position, is it going to be safety? Is it going to be linebacker? Is it going to be wide receiver 3? Is it going to be tight end 2? These are all things we got to talk about. Panthers was 5-1 with Darnell thrown to Arnold. I'm still. I mean, maybe you're right. I don't know. Calcaterra has the same pass catching ability as Ertz. Stoll is the blocking tight end. We are good. We also don't get me with the Tyree Jackson. I don't understand the Tyree Jackson hype. What has he done? He had like one good game like 2 years ago and has pretty much been injured the rest of his career. Why does everybody still buy the hype of Tyree Jackson? Yeah, sometimes if you can't get on the field in 2 years, maybe it's time to just move on. And we may well be fine with Stoll and Calcaterra. And maybe I'm undervaluing those two guys. And maybe I just see a team like Arizona that's going to blow things up, that maybe they're a trade target. And I'm just trying to be intrigued by what they have. And maybe some of my love of Zach Ertz because of his time in Philly is clouding my judgment, but I still don't buy that. Stoll's good. I just see that Zach Ertz will go down. Not Zach Ertz. Dallas Goedert will go down at some point. That's what the track record says. And those games when he goes down, if it's more than a game or two, we struggled when he missed 5 games last year. He opens the field up for the running game, for A.J. Brown, for Devontae Smith. Calcaterra doesn't do that. Stoll definitely doesn't do that. You can be had with a great passer like Madden. Yeah, Josh Allen making the cover of Madden. 2 things on that. 1, thank God it's not Jalen Hurts. I don't believe in curses or bad karma or bad omens, but for Madden, I do believe it for some reason. So Josh Allen's going to have the worst season of his career this year. But back to the Damar Hamlin thing, I actually think Madden should have put Damar Hamlin on the cover. I thought that would have been a good gesture, a cool thing to do. They do seem pretty high on Christian Ellis. And again, he played special. See, the thing is, everyone's like, he played really well. And so everybody talks about this guy on special teams, that guy on special teams. We had like the 30th ranked special teams last year. We were terrible in punt and kick coverage. Why is everybody so high on these special teams guys? And, the Eagles keep their coach, the special teams coach or coordinator, Clay. I forget what his first name is. Yeah, they were so bad. I don't understand the love of special teams guys when you had a bad, like everybody was in agreement. We had a bad special teams last year. Maybe it was because we had a bad punter. That is possible. Maybe it was because of, we had bad kick and punt returners. But still, like being the best player on a bad unit doesn't make you a good player necessarily. We do need safety help. I firmly agree with that. Jackson went to the University of Buffalo. That's why he's great. Arizona has 2 good players, Ertz and Budda, and I'm gonna take both if I can. I'd rather go Queen than Budda Baker. To me, I just want somebody else. It just depends on what it's gonna cost, trade wise, what it's gonna cost money wise, cap space, how long term. Because the Brown Blankenship might be the safety duo of the future. If you can get one of these guys cheaply just for 1 year to kind of help a veteran to help groom these guys, then I'm happier with that than giving. Like, if Budda Baker's going to cost a 3 or 4 year deal, I don't want him. I want somebody that's going to be a 1 year fill-in for now. Tyree had a great preseason last year. Preseason? So what? I mean, I'm sorry, George. The preseason's meaningless, isn't it? If you're going to put stock in emissions this time of year, you need to do the same with. I don't know. I'm not putting stock in anybody that's doing OTAs and stuff like that. I'm just reading what the articles are saying. That's why I'm saying, even though Ellis is one of the winners of OTAs, he's on a bad special teams unit. I don't know. Tyree Jackson, it's not his first year. It's not his first go-around. It's been a couple years now. Wasn't it 2020 when he had that breakout game, or was it 2021 when he had that breakout game? And then he got hurt his back or whatever, went on IR. I just don't know if Tyree Jackson is the thing. I don't. I think that is why they went out and got Dan Arnold, because Goddard gets hurt often. But I don't think Dan Arnold's a good enough upgrade when there's other upgrades that could be had. I appreciate that. I thought Damar Hamlin, again, Drew, you were a few minutes late to the show. I don't know if you heard it. I said it. I don't know how Hamlin stepped down the football field. Mentally weak me, like after taking a hit like that and almost dying, I would never have done it ever again. Like, I would have tried to get into broadcasting. I would have done anything, but it takes a special kind of player to almost die on the football field and then get back on it the next year. Like, that's That's special. Bad business decision. Why? I think it's a great business decision. It's like it's a little cliche-ish. It's a little, I don't know what the right word is, but people would buy that for Hamlin for sure. Don't get me wrong. I think if we get Baker, it would be a huge upgrade. I hope we go get him. But for a championship caliber team, we are building for the future correctly while also weighing out. And that's a great. And this is a AJ. This is a huge Howie Roseman compliment. This is for George. This comment is for George because this is what makes Howie Roseman so special right now. He thinks of now, next year, and the future constantly when he's making decisions. And that's why I said I want a safety upgrade, but I want a safety upgrade that's not going to affect the future. So that's a great comment right there for sure. The Rams may have a good player left on the scrap pile. I think the Rams are going to be better than people realize this year. The Rams were bad last year. There's no doubt about it. But everybody's going to get healthy on that team. You still have Sean McVay leading the charge. They're going to be better. They're not going to be a playoff team or a contender, but they're going to be better, and they're going to try to go and get wins this year. They're not like trying to lose. You will never know what magic Howie will pull. Absolutely. I mean, nobody had Chauncey Gardner-Johnson on their bingo card coming to the Eagles last year, so you never know. And that's why I don't make my season predictions till the final 53 is announced before week 1, till I see everything, till I get all the evidence combined, and then I break it down. You're right. Special teams was not good. Michael Clay's job should have been in jeopardy. Supposedly, Michael Clay was a hot coaching candidate across the NFL. People are saying he's going to be a head coach in the NFL sooner rather than later. I don't understand it. I think it was the 30th ranked special teams last 29th or 30th ranked special teams. How are you a hot coaching candidate? Like, I just don't get it. What kind of year will Quez Watkins have? I don't know. Again, he's been hyped up from camp. The coaches hype him up nonstop. I think he said something when he met with reporters this week that, yeah, he knows that everybody thinks he stinks, and there's a lot of people out there that thinks he stinks, but he's going to try to prove people wrong. I think OZ is an upgrade of Pascal, whether OZ, because I can't say his name. I don't know if he plays the 3 or Quez plays the 3, whether they bounce between 3 and 4, both of them. If Quez Watkins is on this team, he's going to have to step up. And if my predictions and thoughts on Jalen Hurts rushing less, so those rushing yards that you lose have to go to running backs, wide receivers, and whatnot. Quez Watkins just got to hold on to the ball. That's the thing. I mean, his 2 or 3 turnovers were just that Washington game, not just his fault, but it was a big moment. His fumble in the Super Bowl, big moment. His mistakes happen at the worst time. And maybe we overthink it because of that, but we don't actually know what condition Hamlin's in. He was out there running around on the field. I mean, I just saw him on the field. I don't know if he actually participated in drills or not. That whole story. I mean, I was on vacation when that all broke, and it just shocked me. And him being back out there is great. I also think that our pump blocking was terrible. I think Covey could. I'm actually pretty high on Covey. I think in the playoffs and late in the season, you saw something from Covey. I think he definitely started to turn a corner late in the season last year. We just need better blocking around him. Sympathy buys, highly doubted. I think sympathy sells. You don't think, Frank? You don't think sympathy sells? I don't know. I don't know. Sympathy. I mean, I haven't bought him. I think the last Madden game I bought was Madden 08. That was a Vince Young cover year. I just don't play video games anymore. I don't have the time for it. Speaking of Madden covers, mediocre rise. Oh, Peyton Hillis? George, let me tell you something. Peyton Hillis' breakout year was the greatest fantasy football season I ever had. Because I had drafted Maurice Jones-Drew number 1. I had drafted Steven Jackson number 2. And then I got in the 9th round, Adrian Foster, whatever his name was. Young guy, had a breakout season that year from the Houston, I wanted to say the Houston Rockets. I'm still in basketball mode. The Houston Texans. And then in the waiver wire, I picked up Peyton Hillis, his breakout year. So I had 4 of the 5 top running backs. I went 13-0 that year and then lost in the first round of the playoffs. Just so you know. I a lot of love for Peyton Hillis because of that. He basically helped me dominate my fantasy football league till the playoff. We need Cook. We do not need Dalvin Cook. Our running back game is not mid, just so you know. Coaches hyped Watkins up last year as well. It's a very fair point, George. Very, very fair point. They hyped him up. If I'm not sold on Jack Stoll or Grant Calcaterra, how can I be sold on Quez Watkins? Like, I still firmly believe, we talked about tight end. We talked about safety, cornerback, linebacker, places that we need to upgrade. I still do think, and look, DeAndre Hopkins, financially speaking, is not a great addition. But if he's still available 2, 3, 4 weeks down the line, and you can convince him to take a 1-year deal, I want to upgrade that wide receiver 3 position. I really do. I mean, Hopkins has got his issues. He's a personality. He's a big name. He's another diva wide receiver. But this team would be better off with DeAndre Hopkins than Quez Watkins playing a vital role on its team. I firmly believe that. So you definitely need to find a way to upgrade him. And maybe not, I don't know. Is there a way you could, you can't cut Quez Watkins, I don't think. I don't know. I think it just seems weird, sounds weird saying it. But can you find a team to trade a 7th-round pick for Quez? I don't know what happens there. If you trust Howie, then you have to give Dan Arnold a chance since he signed him. It's a fair point. I mean, Don, I keep saying Dan because it looks like Dan on my screen. Then when my eyes, I just can't see the screen. There's so many things on my screen at once. And then I lean in, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's Don, not Dan. Thanks for tuning in today, my man. The hashtag, in Howie we trust. I mean, what has he done wrong in the last few years? I mean, he hasn't made a mistake in a long time. I mean, when was the last Howie real big mistake that he made? The really bad judgment call that he made? I don't know. I think that's a very fair point right there, Don. Really do. Did they hype up Reagor before trading him? They did. And we were being hyped up on Jalen Reagor for a long time. And look, I actually stuck up for Jalen Reagor, not the football player, the person, because social media is a cesspool, and social media really, really gets the best of Jalen Reagor. And there were some people that took things way too far on social media with Jalen Reagor. And I was against that. So I tried to stick up for him a little bit in that sense. But as a football player, man, he's just not good enough. Just not. Big Philly Stars game tomorrow. Did anybody else watch the Philly Stars? Because I sure as hell don't. I would take a punt on Reagor in the final round of fantasy this season. Why? Is he even on the Vikings still? I don't even know. Like, no, not happening. D-Hop cannot stretch the field like Watkins. It's the threat he poses more than expectations. Right, so D-Hop isn't the speed demon that Watkins is. But you've got plenty of options. You've got A.J. Brown. You've got Devontae Smith. And then, if you don't want DeAndre, you just need a guy in the slot that can find the open spot, the soft spot in the defense, and be like, slot receivers aren't necessarily stretch the field guys. Devontae Smith can stretch the field. A.J. Brown can stretch the field. That would be on the offense of the coaches developing plays to get guys open. DeAndre Hopkins, as long as he can find a spot. If you want just a slot guy that can find the soft spot, there's a lot of people talking Hunter Renfrow. Was he cut by the Raiders, or is he just available in a trade? I don't even know. Does Hunter Renfrow even cheaper? I know Hunter Renfrow was injured a lot last year. But the year before, he really came into his own as a very viable slot guy that finds the open spot in a defense, sits down, drops his anchor, and is like a safety valve. Slot receivers are just as much of safety valves to their quarterbacks as they are deep threats. So Renfrow would be a trade, okay. I mean, I'm not giving up a lot for Hunter Renfrow. Definitely not giving up a lot. But it's a possibility. It can't be written off. If you can't get Hopkins, is Hunter Renfrow an upgrade over Quez Watkins? The potential of Quez Watkins, the comfortability the coaching staff and this team has in Quez Watkins versus a guy that doesn't know the offense or doesn't know the system, what would be better off? I'm not sure. If you move D Hop, who are you moving? See, I don't think you have a true. If you get DeAndre Hopkins, you don't have a slot receiver. You've got a bunch of outside guys, and you just got to get creative. Brian Johnson, Nick Sirianni have got to just get creative with their play calling. You got 3 outside guys. I don't know. Maybe you see a rotation of who's in the slot depending on the play, depending on the play call. I don't know. I think it would definitely put a lot of pressure on the opposing team's defense if you've got Hop, if you've got Smitty, and you got Brown with Dallas Goedert and the running attack that this team has. So, in that sense, I see a question coming in. We'll get to you, AJ, in a second. Let me run through these others because that was another topic today. We won the Super Bowl partly because Aguilar stretched the field in the slot. Dude, I get what you're saying, and yes, you're right. But I almost want to switch your comment into a question. Were we too harsh on Nelson Aguilar? I think we were, because Nelson Aguilar was a huge part of that Super Bowl team, huge part of winning the Super Bowl, not just that game, that whole season. And we ran him out of town. And he hasn't done great since he left, but Nelson Aguilar, special place in my heart because anybody on that Super Bowl team will have that special place. But man, I think we were a little harsh on Nelson Aguilar. When we see some of the other guys that we've had roll around here in Eagles green, in midnight green, not Kelly green, as wide receiver, I think we were a little harsh on Nelson Aguilar. He had the dropsies occasionally. So did Quez Watkins. I would give up Stairway to Golf for more football talk. It's Fairway to Heaven, okay? Get the name right. Who do you think? I love this question, AJ, and this is part of my list of topics for today. Obviously, Cam Jurgens has been bulking up, supposedly, to play right guard. But then you drafted the kid Steen from Alabama to be the right guard. And I think it brings up a really, really interesting point and question. And we're going to continue with the comments, but I just want to start here for a second. Do you want to risk Cam Jurgens learning guard, maybe being good, maybe not being not good at it, hurting or helping his confidence, hurting or helping his frame and his physical body, or just let him stay as the backup center and put the rookie Steen there at right guard, who can play the position, who's built for the position? Continue letting Cam Jurgens learn how to be the center of the future of this team. It's not like he's been sitting on our bench it's not like it's Aaron Rodgers who sat behind, Brett Favre for 4 years. It's only going to be his second year. This probably is Kelsey's last year. There's a very good chance. In my mind, I am letting Cam Jurgens stay as the backup center and continuing to learn and develop that role so that when the time comes and he has to take over, it's a seamless transition. I'm running Cam Jurgens in some of the practices as the starting center because Kelsey isn't going to practice all the time. He isn't going to be heavily involved in training camp because he's a veteran. He doesn't need to overexert his body and get risk getter. But Cam Jurgens is going to get a lot of center one, in my mind, reps in practice and in camp. And you're just going to let him continue to learn from Kelsey. So when that day comes, and that day is coming sooner than later, he's ready. Now, the team likes Cam Jurgens, likes his talent, and they're probably going to make him the starting right guard. I just think it might be a mistake. We'll continue talking that as we go here. Ultimately, you start relying heavily on 12 personnel you do not need. Did they run the 12 personnel as much last year as they did in years past? I don't think they did. I think they ran a lot more 3 wide receiver sets than usual. Of course, we were hard on Nelly, especially since Wentz was his quarterback that season. No clue what was going on behind the scenes. Fair point. Extremely fair point. Do what the Bills did. We need a guy to get to Hurts, so we got Leonard Floyd. We got lots of guys that can get after the quarterback, obviously. Eagles are the best team in the NFC, without a shadow of a doubt. Nelson thrived as slot. He was good when there was no pressure. When he had to step up and be the man, he crumbled. We were definitely harsh. And Drew, we've only been doing this show on this network now for a little over 2 months now, but I've been doing this show for a long time. I think we're too harsh on athletes in general. And I talk all the time. I've been talking for 2 years on this show almost about not watching the words we use on social media to critique these players and how we do it. We really need to be nicer to these athletes. We got to be fairer to these athletes. We got to stop the bullying of the athletes. They see it. They hear it. They feel it. They're humans. We really got to watch our words as people and how we bully these guys and are harsh on them. I mean, Kelsey is the king in Aladdin. Steen is right guard in all probability. Juergens is not big enough, but they are working. I read reports he's up to 310 pounds. They're trying to get him up to 315. I don't think it's smart to have your center of the future putting on all this extra weight and muscle to play a position he wasn't picked to be. Juergens is not big enough. Putting him at right guard is justifying his draft position. Exactly. I agree with everything you're saying here. And I think if the Eagles, all the reports are coming out that they're trying to get Juergens ready to play right guard, but I think it's the wrong decision. I think you take Steen, and is it Tyler Steen? I don't know. I just want to say Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens, Kevin Steen, because that's just when I see the word Steen, I think Kevin Owens. But yeah, I don't know. We cannot run 12 with the current depth at tight end. Absolutely. And as soon as we lost Zach Ertz, we stopped running so much 12 personnel. So again, do you want Quez Watkins as your slot if you're not going to run 12 personnel? Or is Dan Arnold the answer? And Dan Arnold the answer to run more? Or is Grant Calcaterra? We say we don't have a slot guy. Is Quez Watkins good enough? Is Grant Calcaterra going to take a big step forward this year and be that, not slot guy, but run that 12 personnel so that you got him running over the middle? I don't know. Depends on how much their net worth is and effort. Yeah, no, no bullying. But they can handle practice more or less. Look, I just want to be careful on how we treat players in general in sports. Also, I'm a huge fan of having running back by committee. It's been working for us since we had Dougie P. It's been working for us since before that. We don't need Cook or someone like that. I agree with you 100%. I look back at the Carell Buckholder. Was it Carell Buckholter with Vaughn Heberon? Like, we've been running back by committee. We had the Thunder and Lightning, Charlie Garner, and who was opposite Charlie Gardner with the Thunder and Lightning? We had a trio, Buckholder, Vaughn Heberon, and one of those guys. We've been running the running back by committee for a long time in this city, and that shows in how they value running backs in this city, on this team, in this organization, because it's something that's carried over from Joe Banner right to Howie Roseman. Excuse me. And then the 1 year Chip Kelly takes over, he spends a buco amount on DeMarco Murray, and that obviously didn't work out. Giving all that money to Ricky Waters back in the day did not work out. So running back by committee, I'm perfectly fine with it, especially when two of the guys in your committee are off injured, so you're not going to be overexposing them to getting a lot of hits. Hey, guys, while we're watching this video, let's reset. Trending in the AM here on Philadelphia Sports Network. Make sure we're liking this video. Great interaction from y'all today. It's all Football Friday. I'll talk anything football with you guys. Anything. But we've got these topics going on. The running back committee thing, I think, is overblown to an extent. Like, the only thing that I want to see, and again, I brought this up last week on Football Friday with Coach Dale Carlson. And I think this, to me, not who our starting safeties are going to be, not who our linebackers are going to be, not who's going to be the lead running back, or, the topic that we led the show of, Jalen Hurts. What's a 2023 season success look like for him? All those things I think are secondary. And this running back by committee brings me back to last week's conversation about the coaches, and specifically the coordinators, offensive and defensively, of this team. Sean Desai was a defensive coordinator for 1 year, and the Bears were horrendous that year. Not by his fault. I mean, it was just a bad team, and that was the Nagy season. A lot of stuff flowing around there in Chicago. But you got an offensive coordinator, Brian Johnson. Yes, huge connection with Jalen Hurts as his quarterback coach, dating back to high school with Jalen Hurts. He was a great coordinator with Florida, but he's never been in this role in the NFL. It's a huge test for Brian Johnson. And the running back by committee thing goes to the offensive coordinator / play call. We got to make sure that if you have a running back by committee, that there is no, how do I say this? Like when Rashad Penny's in there, it's not a guarantee that it's just a straight run up the middle. when Kenneth Gainwell's there, is not just a guaranteed passing play. Like, there's got to be enough creativity, and you've got to know Gainwell could get called to run up the middle. Penny might go out of the backfield to catch a screen. Like, there's got to be enough creativity that at any moment, any running back can be used in any form. I don't want it to be, when this running back's in there, they're pigeonholed as this. This guy's in there, they're pigeonholed as that. And that's going to be the key this year for Brian Johnson. I mean, I don't know if he called the plays at Florida, but I mean, that Florida Gators offense was really good. Got a lot out of Kyle Trask. Who's floundering around as a backup in the NFL. Might start for Tampa. Who knows what's going on with Tampa's quarterback situation. But, I still think that all these things we keep talking about, if Brian Johnson's not the guy, we might have some problems this year. I've got the confidence. Obviously he's been instrumental on Jalen Hurts' success and growth, but it doesn't mean he's going to be able to handle play calling in the NFL. It's not that easy. There's a lot of offensive coordinators that fail calling plays. There's a lot of head coaches that fail calling plays. So I don't know if running back by committee works if your offensive coordinator or your play caller knows how to maximize that trio. And I think that's a really, really important aspect of this whole season. Is Sean Desai going to be a good defensive coordinator? We're going to run a totally different. I know some things came out this week from Fangio again. I think he said basically he was going to be the defensive coordinator before the Jonathan Gannon tampering thing happened. I guess whatever. It is what it is. But Desai is a Fangio disciple. Desai, all signs point to him being a very good young up-and-coming defensive coordinator, possibly head coaching candidate down the line. But his one time in the DC chair, his team failed. I mean, I think Robert Quinn, that was the year Quinn had like 19 sacks for the Bears. This is a great point, George. Groh was phenomenal as a position coach until he became offensive coordinator. And look, college is different than the pros. Brian Johnson was a really good offensive coordinator at Florida. Doesn't mean he's going to be a great offensive coordinator in the NFL. Everybody's going to want to poach Brian Johnson. They had to promote him to offensive coordinator if they think he's a good coach, because everybody was going to poach him because of the work he did with Jalen Hurts. It seems like Brian Johnson is getting all the credit for the growth that Jalen Hurts took. Like, Shane Steichen got the credit because he got a head coaching job, but I think he got that based off of the success of the offense as a whole. People were talking that Brian Johnson could have been a head coach this year, let alone an offensive coordinator, because of the growth that Jalen. Like, you telling me that teams like Houston or Carolina or the Colts, who have drafted these young quarterbacks, wouldn't have wanted a guy like Brian Johnson on their team because of what he did. Like, I think it's crazy that Brian Johnson gets all the credit. I think Nick Sirianni deserves some of the credit. I think Shane Steichen deserves some of the credit. And obviously Jalen Hurts deserves a ton of the credit. Brian Johnson got this job as offensive coordinator because of the success of Jalen Hurts. It is zero chance. There's a zero chance to guarantee that he will be successful in that role. And to me, it is one of the most untalked about question marks headed into 2023. A young guy that hasn't called plays in the NFL, that's in a role he's never been in before in the NFL, that got promoted because his quarterback took a massive leap. Exactly, AJ. His success was because of his mentality, his work ethic. And even after getting $255 million, he still has that same personality. So, it's almost like Hurts doesn't get enough of the credit for his own success. Like, I mean, he got a lot of credit because he got a $255 million contract. I guess that is proof of, him putting in the work right there. As long as we don't use lose Stoutland, other teams can poach whomever they want. Yeah, I mean, if I was Howie Roseman, if I was Jeffrey Lurie, I'd give Jeff Stoutland a blank check and said, sign your name and whatever you want, you can hear. I don't know if an offensive line coach, George, has ever made the Hall of Fame. But if there's not, then Jeff Stoutland needs to be the first offensive line coach that makes Hall of Fame. I mean, everybody wants to say it, but I'm just going to say it again. The work he's done with just Jordan Mailata is Hall of Fame worthy enough. Hell, you can give him credit. I mean, Andre Dillard. I said before the offseason began, losing Andre Dillard was probably likely, and it was going to be a big deal. Now, drafting Steen makes up for that a little bit, still Jack Driscoll, whatever. But Andre Dillard got a 3-year, $28 million contract, having been a bust of a first-round pick. Because teams look at Andre Dillard and say, he just spent 3 years learning and grooming under Stoutland. We lose Isaac Seumalo to a huge contract. Why? Isaac Seumalo wasn't this hot, touted prospect when he came to Philly, but he learned and grew under Stoutland. Stoutland's the only coordinator that would care about losing. Everyone else is replaceable. I mean, and that's kind of like the crux of being a good team and being a great franchise and having success. Teams poach your guys, which to me is crazy that, what's his name, Eric Bieniemy from Kansas City still hasn't become a head coach because KC's been in how many Super Bowls and won so many, and that says a lot about him, the person, that he doesn't, get that job or hasn't gotten a head coaching opportunity yet. Didn't he leave Kansas City this year? I forget. Where did Bieniemy go? I don't even remember now at this point. But yeah, I mean, that's what happens. That's why we talk about coaching trees. And it's the job of the head coach to be preparing these guys. Like, they knew we were going to lose Shane Steichen at some point. So they've been grooming Brian Johnson. And hopefully they groomed him enough for this role. And if they groomed him well enough, and if we make another run at a Super Bowl this year, Brian Johnson will be a head coach next year, probably. Sean Desai, I think he's got to go maybe 2 years, 3 years of being a solid defensive coordinator before he gets poached. Bieniemy went to Washington. All right. I knew he went somewhere, but that's kind of more like similar to Sam Cassell leaving, similar to Deuce Staley leaving. Sometimes you got to take a parallel step somewhere else before you can take that step up. It just sucks that he went to Washington because Washington's a train wreck. Like, I don't get Washington's love with Sam Howell. Like, they're all in. And I got my Ref the District guys. My guys that do a Washington podcast and stuff like that. Great group of guys there. Trav Stoner, Dog. They're all great guys. But they're all sold. They've been sold and they've been told to be sold on, and they are sold on, Howell being their quarterback. Bieniemy's got his hands full figuring out how to get that offense rolling down in Washington. And there's going to be a lot of hiccups with that. You got a young, inexperienced quarterback. It's a shame because Washington's got talent. They've got Scary Terry. They've got Antonio Gibson. They just don't have a quarterback, and they haven't for a long time. But yeah, the whole point of that is you're going to lose these coordinators. It's going to happen. It's up to Nick Sirianni right now. Back then, it was Doug Peterson, Andy Reid. These guys grooming the next guy to step in. It's part of it. If you're a successful coach in a successful franchise, you're going to lose coordinators. Problem with Stoutland, there's a good chance we don't lose Stoutland because it doesn't seem like Stoutland's older now at this point. I don't know how old he is, but he seems older. Seems like he's been around the NFL for a long time. Seems like he's pretty content in his role. It doesn't look like he wants a job as a head coach or an offensive coordinator. Kind of like Jim Johnson never getting a chance to be a head coach. He's one of the best defensive coordinators of that era. Truth is that being Reid's offensive coordinator comes with an asterisk. Yeah, I mean, does Reid still call the plays in KC? I think he does. Andy Reid is the offensive coordinator. I get that. And to an extent, Nick Sirianni is still the offensive coordinator. He just doesn't call the plays here, but he designs a lot of the concepts and stuff like that, and he gives them the game plan he wants. But yeah, Andy Reid, you're always living in his shadow. I mean that figuratively, not physically. I mean, you live in his shadow physically too, but figuratively, you live in his shadow always. Same thing with Bill Belichick. Same thing with any excellent, top-tier, long-term, successful head coach in any sport. You're always going to be in their shadow. And yes, I made a fat joke. I'm not one to speak. I got the belly here to prove it. I don't know. Let me see if I got through all the topics I wanted to cover today. And keep the comments coming. Stoutland is 61. Actually, a little young. I would have put him at about 65, 67. But if he's not a head coach or an offensive coordinator by 61, he's very content coaching offensive linemen. I think he's very content in Philly. He's been in Philly for a long time. I don't see him going anywhere. And as long as Howie keeps paying him, or Jeffrey Lurie keeps paying him, I think he's fine. I think he'll be here for a while, and that's good for this team. You think about it, you just look at this offensive line. You got Kelsey, you're grooming his replacement. You got Lane Johnson, who said this is probably his last contract, so 2026 is the end. You know, you're constantly grooming. You lose one, you gain. We see to 2020, we have come so far as an offensive line since 2020 when we had like 18 offensive starting line configurations in 16 games. Like, that's how bad it was. Like, we have come so far. Do I think Matt Patricia is a good addition? Well, I got crushed for my opinion on him when he got brought in here. Two things. A couple things with Matt Patricia, AJ. One, he doesn't come here if Darius Slay doesn't say, I'm okay with it. Just so you know. Matt Patricia, the position coordinator, hell, even as a defensive coordinator, is very good at his job. Matt Patricia, the head coach, is a train wreck. So Matt Patricia coming into coach positions, I'm perfectly fine with it. I think it is a good addition. I think this coaching staff as a whole lacks veteran voices that have been around the NFL. Matt Patricia's been under Bill Belichick. He's gotten to the head coaching position and failed. He's learned from that. He's coaches, linebackers and defensive line and whatnot. Matt Patricia here in his role as a veteran, Sean Desai's young and experienced. Hey, Matt, I'm struggling, figuring this out. Help me with these. Like, having that veteran position or person on that coaching staff, I think does wonders. And I wish there was more of those veterans on the offensive side as well. I really think it's a smart hire. And everyone's saying, well, him and Darius Slay hate each other. Well, Darius Slay and him do have a checkered past, we'll just say. But Darius Slay is a professional. Matt Patricia is a professional. Not sure why in the scalding 80-degree heat he's wearing his jacket out there, but, whatever. I think it was a smart hire. I think it was a good hire. And it can't hurt. And if he gets out of line, you're out of here. This is like a chance for Matt Patricia to rehab his image, so to say. I would never bet on a Belichick disciple. A lot of them have failed. They've lived in his shadow. They go out and try to spread their wings. I mean, McDaniels. George, you remember me back in the beginning before Nick Sirianni was hired. I think I was high on. I don't think he was my top choice, but out of the guys the Eagles were leaning towards, McDaniels was my top choice. And he bombed in Vegas last year. Bombed. I wanted Brian Dabble, but he wasn't one of their top choices. So McDaniels was one of the top guys. I was high on him. But, the Belichick guys don't necessarily spread their wings well, but Andy Reid's have. Holmgrens have done well. There's a lot of guys that do well. I suppose as long as you keep Patty from managing people, should be okay. Yeah, and there's something to that last part. Perhaps the Eagles culture rubs off on him. The Eagles culture that Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni have set forward is that it's team, not me. Even though there is a me in team, there is no me in this. There's no I in this team. So maybe it rubs off on him, and maybe it fixes his image in the NFL. Maybe it doesn't, but he still knows defense. He still knows how to coach. He has had success as a coordinator in the past and as a position coach in the past under Bill Belichick, but I'm not worried about it. I think it's smart. I think it was a good hire. I think you could have done much worse than him. Too much effort trying to be Bill rather than themselves. I think that's fair. I think you've got to be your own person. You can learn from Bill Belichick. You can learn the X's and O's of how to build a team. But you still got. It's funny. I try to relate things to my pizza shop. I got a certain type of personality, and when I hire a new employee, they see me and how I interact with customers and the other employees, and then they try to be exactly like me, and it comes off fake. It comes off unauthentic, and then they fail. I'm like, no. You got to be yourself. That is the most important thing, is to be yourself. Have your own ideas. Have your own identity. You can't be Bill Belichick. There's only one Bill Belichick. And I think that's important. And I think that's a fair point. Like, if Brian Johnson tries to be Nick Sirianni, it's going to come off not authentic. And it's going to fail. Brian Johnson has to be his own man to be successful. He's got to be confident in himself and what he says and does. I think it's a fair point right there, George. I think it's a very fair point. Let's see. Let me go down my list here. I talked about Hurts. Well, we barely touched on it. The Jalen Hurts for Russell Wilson trade that almost happened. And I still think that's such a fun topic to think about, is that how close we were to losing Jalen Hurts. And I wonder if Jalen Hurts goes to Seattle and we get Jalen Hurts, does Jalen Hurts have the jump that he does? I mean, Geno Smith had a pretty big jump last year. Hey, AJ, thanks for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Have a great day at work. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be back Monday on this show. We got about 10 minutes left anyway. You're not going to miss too much here. So I appreciate you tuning in, my man. Have a great one, my man. The Russell Wilson thing, man. That coming up this week kind of was fun to look at, and other things we could have or should have given up, what we wouldn't have right now. We talked about what equates success for Jalen Hurts. We'll continue that conversation throughout this summer as it leads up to camp. We already hinted on this week that Jalen Hurts, Chris Sims. I'm still not over it that Chris Sims has Jalen Hurts as the number 7 quarterback on his list. I know Chris Sims has an agenda. I know Chris Sims is a clickbait guy now. I know Chris Sims was a terrible quarterback, and he's compensating by making these terrible lists. It's still disrespectful. It doesn't matter how bad the list is, what you think of Chris Sims, whatever it may be. It's still disrespectful, and that's the point. They put Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert ahead of a guy that's had more success in a small sample size, but more success is disrespectful. And that's why it still upsets me. So we covered that. We've talked Cam Jurgens a little bit today. We've talked Hunter Renfrow. Nobody really got into the Hunter Renfrow thing with me. No one, I guess nobody's really into Hunter Renfrow. Russell Wilson trade would have set this team back for, oh my God. Hey, and George will remember. I told you, Denver wasn't winning that Super Bowl last year. My Raiders didn't make the Super Bowl like I thought. I thought the Eagles were going to beat the Raiders in the Super Bowl, but, the Eagles would have been set back. I mean, we wouldn't have A.J. Brown. We wouldn't have Jalen Carter. We wouldn't have Jordan Davis. We wouldn't have – who else? There's been so many players we don't have right now. And the Eagles wouldn't have made the Super Bowl last year and have the bright future. I don't know if Russell Wilson is going to continue being as bad as he was. That he might take a step forward, but Denver, I just don't know. Again, not sold on Geno. I'm not sold on Geno either because – and it's funny because I'm more sold on Jalen Hurts because he's been trending upward. Geno Smith, but it's only been 2 or 3 years with Jalen Hurts. Geno Smith's been in the league for 10 years, and he had one good season. So I'm not sold on him there. You're not bothered by Sims' ranking, but the reason, and that's the thing, his reasoning maybe irritates me is the word that I'm looking for, the phrase that I'm looking for. It bothers me because it's disrespectful. And it just shows how much bias you have in what you're doing. And it just proves that you're just clickbaiting. It really does. I mean, hell, 2 years ago, he wasn't even on the list. You had Kellen Mond on the list. Where's he these days? It's just, I don't know. It shouldn't be taken so seriously like we do, but it still rubs me the wrong way. It just does. And I'll never, I don't know. It irritates me so much. It's just so disrespectful, in my opinion. Told you before, whilst Eagles fans kept taking the bait, people like Sims will keep fishing. I get it. But to me, it's almost, why does, the companies they work for shouldn't, employ these guys? It makes them look stupid. And then he goes out there on these shows and he makes it, well, Jalen Hurts was the reason we lost the Super Bowl, he said. And if he would have done better in the Super Bowl, he might have had him higher on the list. Well, Justin Herbert, what's he done? What Super Bowls he played in? What Super Bowls Trevor Lawrence played in? Because they're more the traditional quarterback. Maybe there's a little race in it too. I don't know. I don't want to get into that, but maybe there is. I just don't he doubles down, triples down, quadruples down on his opinion, and it's just a list. It is. I just think it's disrespectful, and I just think it's wrong. We were not a quarterback away from winning anything. Trading for Wilson with all they wanted would have been catastrophic. Absolutely, 110%. We saw the proposed trade, insane. So, yeah, I know. We were both so wrong on the AFC West last year, George. So wrong on the AFC West. It is what it is. Now this year, I'm just going to say it's going to be the Chiefs and nobody else. And this will be the year one of them other teams, surprise us. I don't know. It's ridiculous. Yeah, having him off the list told me he had no merit. Yeah. And what's Chris Sims? Like, Jalen Hurts' season last year was better stats statistically than Chris Sims' entire career. And I'm not saying, made the NFL, he is what he is. But he was a bad quarterback. Maybe he's a little jealous. It just irks me. It just irritates me. It just rubs me the wrong way. So anyway, going back down my list here. Anything else that I got on this list I haven't touched on? Ertz, we talked about that. We're not talking basketball. Gambling in the NFL. I only got 5 minutes left. So if you want to keep talking to Eagles, you can. I might start rambling on this NFL and all these suspensions. And I was talking about it. I think I brought it up with even my wife yesterday. Like, why do so many NFL players keep getting busted for gambling? Like, and I know Mark, if he was in the comment section, he would be saying that, it's in their face. They're partnered with them, the NFL, all the advertising dollars. I don't think that's an excuse to be made why these players keep getting caught gambling on NFL games, on anything, like in their facilities, whatever. And it's borderline going to become an epidemic. Like, you just keep hearing more and more rumors about more players that might get suspended for it. Like, I don't understand why these players don't understand the concept that you cannot gamble, especially on the NFL. Calvin Ridley is going to make huge additions to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's coming off his gambling suspension. He hasn't played in almost 2 years, though. Like, it's told to you day one when you join the NFL, you can't gamble on football. You can't gamble at all in the NFL in your team facility. Is like these guys don't seem to have gambling issues. They've got a lot of money they never had before. They got to do something with it. They want to gamble. Is it that hard to place your basketball parlay when you get home? Is it that hard to tell a friend that here's $100, make my bet for me? Like, I don't know. And my point of bringing the gambling up is it's not like a big name player hasn't been caught and suspended already, because that was Calvin Ridley. Not the biggest name, but a big name. A lot of the names are lower down the totem pole of NFL stature. But what's it going to take for players to realize that this is for real and that we can't do it? Is it going to be a lifetime ban on somebody? Is it going to be a bigger name getting caught and them getting suspended? Like, I think that we're dominoing into an opinion or into a topic that could really change things. And I just don't understand why. Is it really boredom? I mean, they got a lot of disposable income. They're young. Most of the players are young guys that are getting caught doing it. You don't see somebody like in their late 30s getting caught doing it. And it's definitely money to burn. If you got so much money to burn, are you that have you never heard of a burner phone? Have you never heard of knocking on your neighbor's door? Here's the money. Make the bet for me. Like, you got how many friends hanging around at your house all the time? Well, you can't do it in your house either. But just have one of your friends place your bets for you. I mean, I don't know. And it's something that I just don't understand where the story goes in the NFL. I don't understand what's going to be the end of gambling and the NFL. Is this going to be a thing where there's we're just getting to the point where gambling's legal almost across the entire country almost. Still a few states that don't allow it. You got your fantasy and DFS and stuff like that, pretty much legal everywhere. Bookies have been eliminated for the most part, mostly around the country and maybe in the world too. I don't know. I don't know how legal it is, George, in the UK. I guess you don't need bookies in the UK anymore either. But I don't know. It's something that has been burning a hole in me, thinking about it for a while. Like, what's going to be the end result of all this gambling and all these problems with gambling in the NFL? Like, I really don't know. And there's got to be a way for the NFL to get these players on board with the just don't do it. Most bet on college, right? You're on a team with college rivals and you spend most of your time at the facilities. I don't know. I don't know. If it isn't gambling, it will be something else. They will find something else that they are meant. Is it just simply they're just young, immature players? They're young, immature people? And they're just going to they're always going to do what they're told not to? I mean, a lot of the people getting caught are 22, 23, 24. They're just It's no different than a kid saying you can't have that candy and they sneak in and get the candy. Is it simply that? That if they're told you can do whatever you want as long as you're not betting on your team, and that's all it's going to take? Maybe that's it? I don't know. I don't know what the end result of this whole thing is going to be. But it's really, what's up, Eric? Glad for you checking in. You missed a great show today. You had a lot of great Eagles. I love football, all football Fridays. You know, it's great to get off of the Sixers for a day. Great to not talk the Phillies, even though their Phillies are winning. And they're 5 in a row. It's been great. I love having football. I can't wait till football season is back. I can't. So we can just talk football all the time. We're like 90 days, 85 days, something like that. So kickoff, I love it. I was too late for work today. Well, I got to wrap this up because I got to get to work now. My day's just getting started. It's Friday. It's Football Friday, but it's also Friday at a pizza shop, which means lots to do today. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up right there. I think this was a fun show, a productive show. We had a lot of good conversations. I can turn my page from my notes for this week to blank pages so I can start taking notes for next week's shows. Can't wait. And always hit me up on Twitter, @BeardandKnowledge. If you ever have any ideas or topics you want me to cover in detail, I'm there for you. I do not see a reason why they should not be able to gamble on anything other than the NFL. That is the compromise. I don't even think it's like if Jalen Hurts wanted to place a bet on the Chiefs-Raiders game, I don't even think that should be really an issue, maybe. But it sucks. It's just something that's something's gonna blow up. Something's gonna happen with it. Maybe the NFL, has to do something. I don't know. 2 hours late for work, man. You'd get fired if you showed up 2 hours late to the pizza shop. Fired? Well, probably not. But we got to wrap it up for the day here. This was another. What's that? We're at 81 and a half minutes here today, so we've got to wrap it up. We'll dive into more of these topics next week. We'll see what's happening this weekend in the world of sports. I appreciate everybody. Make sure you're liking, retweeting, sharing. Only 12 likes on this video. Let's pump those likes up. Tell everybody to tune in whenever you can. Tell everybody you see at work, that you bump into the streets. This is the best, most interactive morning show there is in Philadelphia, talking sports. And it's the only place where your opinions actually matter. We got over 110 comments today. It's not bad. Not bad. Not bad at all. Everybody have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Well, we'll talk to you Monday because tomorrow's Saturday. I'm off. I'm golfing for the first time in ages on Sunday. That should be interesting. That's right. Smash that like button, my man. I appreciate it. Don. I said Dan again. Damn it. It's Don. Thank you, Don, for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. 100,000 subscribers. Yeah, I wish. Hey, I'm happy with the 20,000 that we got here. I appreciate everybody's support. I always do, guys. I really do. But you all have a great weekend. We will talk to you next week. Trending in the AM on Philadelphia Sports Network. I am Phil Stiefel. Enjoy your weekend, guys.